in this industry for a long time, doing a lot of high-impact lending along the way. Today we're going to talk about high-impact lending, which basically we're talking about lending to under-resourced folks. It's key, we had a workshop yesterday on high-impact lending. It was more centered on inclusive in what we're doing. But two of the things that we emphasized in that is knowing your borrowers and figuring out what their specific needs and their challenges are, and developing your programs around those challenges so you can get them to the finish line and get them into their own homes. Because it's, without that, they're not going to be able to build wealth and reduce the wealth gap that we have in this country, as well as a lack of affordable housing. So today we're going to be looking at one credit union, what they're doing in the high impact lending arena, which is pretty incredible. And we're going to look at another credit union who is working with community land trusts, which is one of the good things with affordable housing to make that more available. So let me introduce we have a great panel for you today. I'm really happy that these guys said yes when I asked them. First, I have Jerome. Let me see, Jerome Emanuel, who is the Chief Lending Officer at Alternatives Federal Credit Union in upstate New York. And he doesn't have to raise his hand because he's the only guy in the panel. I have Christy Roel Simmons. She's the Director of Real Estate Operations at Rise CU in Southern California. And let me see, it's the Director of Real Estate Operations, yeah. And then I have Diana Cervantes, VP of Social Impact, also at Rise CU. And I want to acknowledge Diana real quick before we start. Back in Washington at GAC earlier this year, she was awarded the 2025 Juntos Avanzamos Champion Award for her time. So we're going to start off with Jerome, and he's going to talk about what they're doing at Alternatives in upstate New York, and it's pretty incredible. Please ask questions as we go along. I'm sure you'll have some. We will have time at the end as well. So, but don't hesitate to have a mic. I can run around and play Fill on You for those of you who are old.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Lovely people that you are. I don't know that I could actually put the tricky. Actually, do you mind if I stand? Is that all right?
Yeah.
Is this?
You can do the hands up, or you can do the podium.
Oh, okay.
Oh, this just has to be turned on. You want to use it?
Yeah, that's way better. That's way smaller, and I don't want to wear my glasses. So good morning. My name is Jerome Emanuel. I'm the Chief Lending Officer at Alternatives Federal Credit Union, upstate New York. Anybody here from upstate New York? All right, so the 5 people in the room shows how to do it. So I'm here to talk about our pilot program that is, some are going to probably call me crazy. I don't think that I'm crazy. My wife does. But yeah, so it's called the Fair Mortgage. It's finance addressing inequality and racism. And that was really specifically designed, actually Joe came up with that name, that's pretty good. But we know about the inequality, we know about the racism, we know about redlining, right? We know about Tulsa, we know about the civil rights. We know why we are here. I'm not gonna re-educate you on why the state of where we are is here, okay? So we can skip that part. So we saw a high rate of borrowers being turned away. Now, I think that's kind of an understatement. When I came in, I do not come from the credit union world. I did not start as a teller. My mother did. In a very, very short story, very, very short story. My mother, I come from the tenements, so I come from low-income housing. If you don't know what the tenements are, subsidized income, just me and my mom trying to get by. My mom was a teller at a bank, and got the job at the bank and realized that she needed a car. So what does she do? She goes to apply for a car loan at the bank that she actually works for, and she gets denied for the loan. Logic, right? Like, this is super weird. So yeah, I mean, we grew up not having much, but as a kid, you don't know that you're poor. You don't know that you fit into somebody's box. You don't know that you're being, a lot of places, a lot of cities like Elmira, like, even Ithaca, for example, you drive through and you don't see the blight. Like, they like to keep people over here, and they like to keep the people over here, and, those kind of things. So we did see a high rate of borrowers being turned away, and at the time when I came in as chief lending officer, one of my direct reports was the manager of mortgage consultants. So essentially, we have this saying in our credit union, whereas if not now, when, right? So we can't help you right now, but we're gonna work with you. Well, Kim Rigger, who happens to be that person, is super, super passionate about helping people. But what did I notice is I noticed that we were booking very little mortgages. But Kim's pipeline of housing counseling was through the roof. Like, she was backed up 3, sometimes 4 months every day of people that needed help every single day. So I started to dive into that just to kind of say, okay, like, well, what are people struggling with? Like, why are people, why do we have to keep turning people away? And I started to notice some common themes, and we'll go through that during the presentation. So we looked at the factors that were preventing borrowers from being successful. Lack of down payment was huge, right? Obviously for, reasons, again, that I don't have to re-educate you on, you're all in here, so lack of down payment was a big deal. Costly PMI, new self-employment, and qualifications. So these are kind of what we decided. Let's mix it up a little bit. We're gonna turn it on its side, which I love doing that. Let's push the needle a little bit. Let's see what is possible. I'm tired of hearing what I can't do. I want to hear what we can do. I want to be part of the solution. I don't want to be part of the problem. And there were so many parts of the problem. So even getting into this, before I get into this, I was listening to people. Like, a lot of people know who I am in the area, and I think if you don't have a connection to the people in the area, how are you going to serve them? Right, so I'm listening to what they're saying. So what are they saying? They're saying, well, I applied for a mortgage, but the bank/credit union said that I couldn't afford a $1,400 a month mortgage. So I went out and got an $1,800 a month rental. And it's like, word? Like, really? Right? Is that the reality? Yes, it's the reality. Why is it the reality, right? Like, so, okay. Who's making out in this deal? Obviously the landlords, right? It's set up that way. It's set up for people to fail. So we said, okay, 8% every median income, which is going to vary. I mean, I know what ours is. It's going to vary where you are. 120% AMI if you're a first generational home buyer. There's a lot of people that fit into that category, who've never owned a home before, but their parents have also never owned a home before. Like, I don't know, but I'm about roughly in the neighborhood of 50 years old. I'm not going to tell you exactly how old I am, 49. I mean, whatever. But I remember going to school. I I don't remember anybody teaching me about this stuff. I don't remember anybody teaching me about, home ownership and financing and how to save money and those kind of things. Like, that wasn't something that was on my radar. I didn't buy my first home until I was 39 years old. So, census tracts were very important to me because, listen, like, they're putting people in places where they want you to be because they don't want anybody to see the blight. They don't want anybody to see poor people struggling. They don't want to keep that in the forefront. Now, this is economic development 101, and that's what I do come from. This is economic development 101. Like, I want you to be able to drive straight through and not see struggle. I don't want you to see what people are dealing with and going through. I don't like that. So, 100% loan to value, that's not a shock to some of you all. Some of you all are already doing that. I understand that. So when I researched creating this product, I looked at as many mortgage products as I could find everywhere. Everywhere. I came across a couple that I thought were all right, but I didn't think that they pushed the needle far enough. I thought that there was a little bit more that could be done. So, no PMI. Let's just get rid of PMI. Let's just get rid of it. We don't need it. No PMI. You still need some funding for closing costs. Now that comes with the territory, right? You gotta have some skin in the game. And we're talking about, in some cases, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like, this is not a rental. This is something that you're going to pass down. This is how you build generational wealth. We want to know that you want this. There's nothing wrong with that. So, we do have terms that are available up to 40 years. We don't offer the 40-year term immediately. Like, hey, you can go 40 years on this. Like, that's not what we want to do. Like, just being clear, okay? Like, we don't want to put somebody in a situation that they can't dig themselves out of. We don't want to bury the people that we're trying to take care of. So, no minimum credit score. Well, that's kind of shocking, right? Because how many of us are in the mortgage world that you can't get a house, you can't even look at a house if you don't have X amount of credit score. Now, don't be embarrassed by this, but if you're one of those people, raise your hand. If you don't want to raise your hand, call yourself out, that's fine, I get it too. But we all know how the credit score system was set up. We know what it looks like. We know how it was designed. We know who it preys on. We know who it helps. I don't need the credit score to define who the people that we're trying to help are. Does a number define who you are? If you're 635, is there a way I should be treating you differently than somebody who's a 780? No. I don't think so. Maybe some of you do, and that's okay. But I don't think so. But we are going to take a look at the credit history. That's important because we do want to know their ability to repay. I mean, that's our job. So as loan officers or whatever your position is in your credit union, ability to repay has got to be there. We need to be able to see that. But what are we actually looking at? So, minimum of 6 months on time required for trade lines. So that's your car. That's your, we can use other sources. That's your cell phone bill. We can take a look at your cell phone bill. We can look at your utility bill. We can look at other things that may not report to your credit report. Well, what if they did? Well, the credit score would be higher. But guess what? They don't. It's not on there. You know when it shows up? When you stop paying your bill. So we want to see that. I want to see that 6 months, like where are you right now? And then, we look at, charge-offs and collections. And, if it's under $5,000, I'm saying like, okay. Not that I don't care about that. But I don't think that should stop you from being able to buy a home. There's a difference. And it doesn't mean that we don't want to help you get out of that. We're still going to work with you, even with that. Medical collections, I don't want to know. I don't care. I get it, but life happens. And things happen to people. Unexpected things happen to people. And, you know, just being honest, you know, my mortgage manager, who was the mortgage counselor that was overwhelmed with appointments backed up 3 or 4 months because our mortgage manager wouldn't approve the mortgages and kicked them to her. Guess who's running my mortgage department right now? The counselor. That made sense to me. So, I have a counselor that is running this program. So we're looking at medical collections, sure, but oddly enough, the reason why she can't be here right now is because of a life event. She was diagnosed with breast cancer about 4 months ago. Or else she would be right here right now, but she's going through chemo. Life events. Things happen to people. And what does that do to the home? Well, sometimes it hurts people. You struggle. She can't take 6 months off of work to recover because she needs the insurance from the job to take care of, you know, things happen. We understand that. Student loans. Bob drilled me on these student loans. Bob was like, hold on, Jerome, what are you doing?
Jerome and I have done this before, so.
We've done it before. I have a feeling we're going to do it again when we're done. So I talked to my housing counselor, now my mortgage manager, and I was like, all right, Kim, what are we afraid of here? We're afraid of the garnishment. We're afraid of what's going to happen if the student loan goes into garnishment, and now it's coming directly out of people's paychecks. That's what we're afraid of. So I said, okay, how about we do this? What is the maximum amount that they can take out of somebody's paycheck for a garnishment for a student loan? She tossed me the number, and I said, okay, so let's take that number, take it off of their income, and let's see if they still qualify. It's not rocket science, right? Like, let's plan for, you know, worst case scenario, if this happens, do they still qualify for the mortgage? On top of that, we can help them with their student loans. We can help them get out of deferment, like we can help them work with them. Like, this isn't just about buying a house, this is about helping people. And if I'm right, and we're all here sitting at Inclusive, this is about helping people. Not looking good. I don't care what I look like, but I'm like, all right. Thank you. So that was one thing that we addressed with this. So the flexible work environment. 2 years of work history required, can have gaps due to COVID or other reasonable purposes. Here's something else Bob drilled me about. Able to count tip and commission income if it's been received for 6 months. Now, I really want to talk about this for a second. And if anybody feels any differently, and you feel like you want to stop me, please stop me, raise your hand, tell me I'm full of whatever it is that I'm full of. I'll listen to you, but I feel pretty passionate about this. I had my oldest daughter, I had her when I was 24 years old. I had no house, I had no car, I was living with my grandmother. I had a baby on the way, and I had no idea what I was gonna do. Not the greatest situation to bring a child into this world. But what I did was something clicked inside of me and says, you know, I got a baby to take care of. So what I did was I got a job selling cars. And as my daughter Alina That was my motivation for selling cars. I'm gonna go out here and grind for her. They're gonna pay me $300 a week, which is nothing. Nothing. I need to make $1,000 in order to be able to save up enough money to have a place for us to live by the time that she's born. I did that. But then I also started to like the industry. I liked what I was doing. I liked talking to people. And after a couple of years, I became a manager. And then I became a finance manager. And then I became a general manager. And now I'm making quite a bit of money in the car business. And I say quite a bit of money, it's relative. But to me, I was doing pretty well. But half of my income was based on commission. So when I went to go apply for a mortgage for a place for me and my daughter to live, you know what they told me? Well, I see your W-2, but we can't use this income because it's commission. I said, okay, well, but I've been making this much money the same for the last 5 years. Well, what did they say? They said, well, we can only use your base salary to calculate if you can have the ability to repay. So in my mind, this was my thought process. And this is my thought process as we were writing this mortgage. My thought process was, so let me get this straight. In order for me to get a house for me and my daughter to live in, you want me to quit the thing that I love doing, do something else that I don't like doing, and do that for 2 years so that I can qualify to be able to get into a house that you're comfortable with me living in, that you're comfortable with me being able to pay back. I don't like that. Now, we're not just talking about car sales. What about servers? I know servers that just love what they do. So are we going to tell them, hey, listen, you have to quit that job because we can't use your tip income. You have to quit that job. You got to go out and get a real job, whatever that means. You got to go out and get a real job. Even though you love doing what you're doing and you're doing it very well. Like, listen, I don't know a server that is a very good server that's struggling. They always seem to make it, they always seem to land on their feet, so I wasn't really wildly concerned about that when we put that into play. So, self-employment. Bob loved this one too. Actually, it's a passion of mine. I've successfully managed to fail at owning my own business 3 times. Let me say that twice for the people in the back that may not be able to hear me. I have successfully failed at running my own business 3 times. Congratulations. What does that mean, right? Like, so here's what it means. I did enough business for enough time to be able to take care of my family for that time, but I knew when it was time to get out. I knew that this wasn't a sustainable business, and I needed to do something different. There's nothing wrong with that. I think that that's okay, but what does come into play? Well, we know that most small businesses fail within the first 3 to 5 years. So how do we give them a 30-year mortgage? If we know that the likelihood of their business is going to fail within the first 3 to 5 years. So here's where the other part of my job kicks into play is I'm very good at business lending. So we're going to analyze the business. We're going to analyze the sustainability of the business. Can the business succeed? Right, so we're going to look at financials. We're going to look at P&L statements. We're going to look at the industry. We're going to see where the industry's headed. We're going to check their DSCR, and for the non-business people in the room, their debt service coverage ratio. We want to make sure that that's where that needs to be. Check sustainability. We want to check to see, you know, are they managing the business the way that they should be managing the business? What does the credit of the business look like? If they have a line of credit, are they using their credit line properly? Meaning, are they using it for proper purposes, or are they just running up the line of credit and then not paying it down to zero to fulfill the covenant? Because there's a huge difference between a line of credit and there's a huge difference between a line of credit and essentially a term loan, unsecured or secured by a UCC, which the last time I checked, we work together. We don't have an eBay department that I'm aware of, do we? No, I don't think so. Yeah. So we do a pretty intense, if somebody is self-employed, we do a pretty intense dive on the business itself before making any kind of decisions. Now, this was something that I actually stole from another credit union, but I didn't like how they were doing it, and I wanted to do it differently. So my first draft of this, of having an emergency savings, I actually did something that our core would not allow us to do. That was a problem. And this was after the board said yes. So I had to figure that out, which is fine, no problem. But every time that somebody makes a mortgage payment, we take $25 of that mortgage payment and we put it into a savings account for them that can be used for anything, not just housing related. So that was one thing that separated what we're doing here versus some of the stuff that I saw. So things, when you're a homeowner, things go wrong. So within the past 60 days, I'm gonna tell you what's going wrong in my house. New fridge, new washing machine, had a pipe burst in the basement, all that stuff had to be replaced. Fortunately, I had enough money in savings to where I could take care of those things relatively quickly. We didn't really go without, and everything was fine, right? But people need to learn to get into the habit of saving money. The dollar amount, $25, it doesn't sound like a lot of money at all. But if it gets people in the habit of understanding that they need to save and knowing that that money is there for them, another thing that I saw was, in some cases, you had to, with some other of the mortgage products that we studied, you had to wait 5 years before that money is accessible. With this mortgage product, it's accessible when you make your first payment. If you need $25 now, you need $25 now, then go ahead.
I'm sorry, that's taken out of principal or interest at the time of payment?
We pay it. Yeah, we pay it. Credit union pays it. He wanted to know if it was taken out of principal and interest. But we actually pay the $25 that goes into the savings account. So it can be used for anything: vet bills, car repair, beyond household bills. Like I said, people are going to run into things in their lives that they're going to need some help with. They're going to need to be able to get access to some funds. And we're very early in this process. Like I said, it's a pilot program. So if we open something like this up for our entire service area, my mortgage officers would probably all quit their jobs. And because of the overwhelming amount of applications walking through the door, there's no way that they can handle that. So it is a pilot program. We've been running it for a couple of years now. So this was, actually we have updated data. So this is a little bit older data, but total numbers of home purchased under this program Actually, it was about 2.5 years at that time. The 37 mortgages that we've done. The on-time payment history was 33, so 89%. We had one loan that was within 30, 60 days delinquent, and they were very, very quick to respond to say, you know, hey, I'm gonna be behind on my mortgage, something happened, I have to figure this out. But they were really, really, really willing to work with us to get that to work. 90 to 100 days, 120 days delinquent. Listen, you're gonna have those. It's gonna happen. It's happening right now with your current mortgages at a higher clip than this. So this should surprise you. The one thing that does surprise me, we haven't had to foreclose on anything. And the people that are on this list, they're caught up now. And we've done another 7 mortgages on top of that since I've sent this. So look at the math, right? Look at the math. What is the one thing that your current LOS system does not tell you, that does not calculate? Tells you everything else, but one thing it does not tell you. How do you calculate loyalty? I don't see that in Meridian Link. I don't see that in Calyx. So you're wondering, so it's like, okay, Jerome, you're telling me that you calculate loyalty. Yes, I do. I remember the very first person that gave me a shot at something. And I made positively sure that I did not let that person down. And I didn't. I didn't. It was at the top of my mind. It was a priority. And it was a friend of my mom's who gave me $10,000 to borrow to start some idea that I had when I was younger. But she was the only one that was willing to help me. The business failed, but she got every last bit of that $10,000 back because that was super important to me. So now everybody is telling these folks, you can't get a house because you don't qualify, and here's all the reasons that you don't qualify. And then they come across us and they say, you know what? We want to help you, and we're going to help you. And we're going to help you get into a house. And we're going to help you buy that house. Now, how much do you think that that means to them when it comes time to pay that bill? They're happy to pay it. Sometimes they pay early because they want to be able to unlock other resources. They're going to need a car. They're going to need other things. They may need a personal loan at some point in time. They're going to need other services that we can provide. Maybe they're going to need counseling services that we can provide. Now, we're not just opening up, you know, our credit union just to say, hey, we just want to give you money. Like, no, we want to have a lasting relationship that not only just is with you, but is with your children, and your children's children, and your aunts, and your uncles, and your family members, and all that stuff. You know, one of those people that's a homeowner right now is my 24-year-old daughter. She is building generational wealth now. I didn't start till I was 39 years old. But if you know the rules, you know how to navigate the rules, and you have somebody that's willing to help you get there, what does that mean to people? It means a lot. So these are some averages. Obviously in our area, I don't know where you all live. In our area, the average home price, $139,000. Now for some of you that may seem pretty low. depending on where you live. Now, I live in a rural part of upstate New York. It's not a destination. The Cleveland Cavaliers don't play across the street. If you're coming to Elmira, there's a reason, and it's probably to see somebody because there's nothing else to do. So what does that mean for housing prices, right? Like obviously housing is a little bit more affordable. Now take a look at Tompkins County. Tompkins County is up at the 327,500 number, and if I'm not mistaken, that number's gone up, and it's going to continue to go up. What's in Tompkins County? Ithaca, where our home base is. What's in Ithaca? Cornell University. Brightest minds of all the world come to Cornell University. And what does that do for the people that are born and raised there? Well, it drives the price up. It drives the price up on homes. It drives the price up on food. It drives the price up on rent. It drives the price up on absolutely everything. Are they thinking about the people that are born and raised and live there? Or are they thinking about what's bringing money into the community? What's the contribution that Cornell is bringing into the community? And Ithaca is a prime example of, I can drive straight through Ithaca and not see a sign of blight. I won't see a broken down home, or what somebody referred to me yesterday, I was talking about as a tarp home, the blue tarp home. You don't see that. You can drive right through Ithaca and all you see is bliss. You want to take a couple lefts and a couple rights, you're going to end up in the hood and you're going to see where people really live. So there's a difference. I took too long.
Does anybody have any questions before we move on? And let me just say that when I heard about this first 3 years ago, I remember I was talking to Joe and I'm smiling and saying, wow, yeah, no credit score minimums, no this, no PMI, no, wow. And in my head I'm thinking, what? Seriously, and we've grown, and I have done this before, and I played devil's advocate for him, so I've asked him pretty much every question that I would think he would all want asked. And with that said, let's go to your question, and I'll ask one question before we move on.
How did the examiners feel about this, and how did you prepare? What is your capitalization? How did it affect your portfolio?
We just need to move this so we can get to the other.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah.
The first rule that I learned about coming to the credit union was that we make the rules, we just have to make sure we follow them. We follow the rules. So we didn't really have that issue. We haven't had an issue with the examiners, which, great question. Thanks for asking.
I have two quick questions. First is, you're doing 100% on the value. Are you covering all the closing costs? Do they have any skin in the game? Second question is, if the house needs work, repairs, which generally starter homes do, are you financing any of that?
We're not there yet. We got to start somewhere first. So, and on top of that, they're able to couple some of those closing costs. Like we have Federal Home Loan Bank of New York that's helping with some closing costs. We have another community partner, INHS, that's helping with some very, very low interest loans. And some of the closing costs, like there's got to be some skin in the game. That's just kind of part of it.
So I just have a quick question from the personal side, because you mentioned being and the trauma that can come from that. And it took you a long. How long did it take you before you were like, I'm going to try to get a house again? Because you're telling a story about your daughter at 24 getting the house, but if you're told no, like how long does it take you to feel like you can get back in that game?
Forever. And the short version of that is, I did try to get a house. I did try to get a house for me and my daughter when I was in my 20s, late 20s, and I was making really good money at that time. But they just completely dismissed me. Some of it was because of this, right? And some of it was just because, they wouldn't take commission. They wouldn't, You know, when you tell somebody no, as much as we would like to say, well, it's not now, it's when, what they see is like, okay, well, I'm just gonna go get this apartment over here, and then that's gonna be the end of it, and I'm done. Some just don't believe it. And we've had like just an employee recently that called me, and she's like, I just wanna thank you so much for doing this. I never thought that I would ever be able to buy a house in my entire life. I thought I was always gonna have to be able to rent a house, and that was the only way that I was gonna be able to live. And then this came along and it completely changed my life. So that's somebody that's willing to talk with me. What about the people that aren't willing to talk? They just go on because that's what they have to do. I guess the last one.
Okay, yeah, last question.
Not at this point. We are looking to grow the program as much as we possibly can. But there was a piece. My first draft of this, because I wrote this program, but my first draft of this, I think everybody's board in this room would have shot that down. So I wanted to get the main parts passed. The main things that I wanted to get done, like let's start somewhere and then have something to build and grow on. And that's very much on the radar. So thank you. Excellent question.
Okay, hopefully at the end we'll have time for more questions. But for now, I want to bring up Christy and Diana. And high impact lending is great, but you have to have housing to get people into, right? So they're going to talk a little bit about community land trusts. Are there any of you folks here involved in community land trusts?